Hi everyone, Jim Archeco, Archeco Homes team here. We just recently sold a house and we were hired here to add a few circuits to the house. So I thought I'd take the opportunity here to go over your service panel box. It is your service panel. Some people might call it your circuit breaker box. Some people may call it your box, but it's your service panel. And I'll go over here, explain it to you, and we've put a bunch of breakers in already, and I'll show you how to install one right here. So these are the breakers to your house. They're 20 amp, 15 amp, some bigger amperage stuff to run some of your bigger stuff like your AC or your stove. These are double poles, single poles. A lot of different kind of breakers these days. This panel box doesn't have any arc faults in it or GFIs, but they're available. And when you build a new house, your breaker box will look a little bit different because it'll have different breakers that are arc fault protected and GFI protected as well. Just a couple basics about the panel box here. This is your service line coming in right here. These are your two hots, your ground. Obviously, keep your hands out of the box. You don't want to touch anything because this stuff is live. You do have to put your hands in there to put your breaker in and stuff, but I'll show you how to do that safely here in just a minute. Each side of your box is controlled by one of these powers that's coming in. I'm going to keep the terminology very simple so that you as a homeowner can understand it. Instead of talking in terms that an electrician will talk in. So basically it's simple. It's two hot wires coming in here. They're going to control each side of this panel box, known as your bus bar, which are these terminals down here. Those are constantly hot here. The only way to shut them off is by spinning the meter off or having your electric company shut off the power at the pole. So the other parts of this box, you have a spot for your grounds and neutrals on each side. Again, your power is coming out of the bus bar. On the sides and the top, you have places for knockouts where you're going to put a connector in to hold your wire. You want everything to look nice and neat. And that's pretty much the panel box in a quick nutshell for understanding that you guys need to understand. Now, you never want to touch this with a tool. You never want to touch that with your hand. That is live, hot, and you will fry yourself. Some tools you're going to need to put a breaker in. Here's a standard 20 amp breaker. A 20 amp breaker runs a circuit on a 12-2 wire. That is what it's rated for. A 15 amp circuit will run something on a 14 wire and so forth. It's kind of rated that way. Always make sure you're using the right breaker for the right size wire and whatever you are firing up. So this is a 20 amp breaker on off. The hot wire goes into here, and I'm going to show you how to put this in right now. A few tools that you're going to need is a knife, a screwdriver, wire stripper, whatever makes you feel comfortable. Now you always want to be safe when working in a panel box. Obviously, don't do anything stupid like stand in water or be wet or something dumb like that. A good thing to do is if you have a wedding ring, probably a great idea to take it off. It's probably the only time I ever take mine off, and I usually set it on top of the box. You just want to work safe. So let's get to installing this breaker. We have a 20 amp wire right here that we have, which is a 12-2 wire. It's going to run their disposal and their dishwasher. And we're going to put this into the box. We've already done a bunch. I like to label mine. You can see the ones that we've done already for them. So the first thing you want to do is going to knock out one of the knockouts here. You can pretty much choose any one, whatever's giving you space. I'm going to use this one right here so that you can see. And you're just going to knock this out with, I got to knock it out here with, I've got a lot of space to work with. You're going to knock it out with your needle nose here. And once it starts to protrude through the inside, you can take your pliers and just work it out of there. Okay. Now what you're going to do is you can use a metal Romex connector that looks like these ones up here, or you can use a plastic connector that looks like this one here. I'm going to use the plastic connector here, and it's just going to pop right in like this, and that's going to hold our wire in that is already secured to the base here. You're going to take your wire, and you're going to shove it through the connector. And now you want to be really careful when you shove this through because you don't want it to hit anything. So I like to kind of bend it, bring it out through the box. Just trying to be as safe as you can and keep your hands out of the box as much as you can. All right, so now that we're secured, You can see that I have my wire labeled disposal dishwasher. So I'm going to take my strippers here and I'm just going to cut that off because I'm going to take this sheathing off that I have labeled because I'm going to use that later to label the wire in the box just like these are here. So I'm just going to set that right here. So now what we want to do is we want to kind of get a length for our wire. A lot of guys will put drip legs in and all sorts of stuff, but this panel was just put in by somebody else not that long ago. So we're kind of mimicking what they did. A lot of times we like to make a loop and there's really, you just want it to look neat. So we're going to get the size of our wire here and cut our wire accordingly. And we're going to take the casing off. Sheeting, casing, Romex is the proper term, but just for your understanding, like I said, I'm going to keep it simple. You're going to take your knife and you're going to cut right down the Romex here and open it up without hurting the wire. And inside here, you're going to have some paper that's covering the wires in the ground. You just want to be very careful here and just cut that out, get it right out of the way. You're going to peel your paper off. Your paper is going to be around the bare ground wire, which you want to be very careful with because it is bare and we are in a live box. All right, so now that you have your wires here, you kind of want to size them up where they're going to go. You're going to take, this is just your basic 20 amp breaker. It's going to work a 20 amp circuit in your house. Pretty straightforward. So you're going to want to take your neutral wire, your white wire, and your ground, and you want to put it on the neutral and bus ground. So you got one wire per screw on that. So we're going to size our wire properly, and we're going to trim it and strip it on this neutral wire. And we're going to do this outside of the box, so our hands aren't in there. And you just want to get it opened up nice to expose the copper. You're going to take your screwdriver. This is an insulated screwdriver, so it's a little safer. And you're going to just unscrew the terminals here that have nothing in them a little bit so you can get your wire in easier. And you're going to tuck this right in underneath that screw, right on that bus bar. Make it look nice and neat. And you're going to kind of hold it there. You can hold it with pliers if you're more comfortable. As long as you don't touch anything, you'll be fine. And you're going to screw that on that really nice and tight. As tight as you can get it, because you don't want a loose neutral or anything else loose. Now you're going to do the same thing with the ground. You want to be a little more careful with the ground because, again, it's exposed copper. You might want to hold it with your pliers or make sure you're far enough away from everything because, again, everything is live. So once you get the length, again, you're going to tuck it in a different screw terminal. You don't want to use the same ones. You want one wire in each hole. And then you're going to screw that tight. So far, so good. Pretty easy, right, guys? Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take our hot wire, which is our black wire. And again, we're going to size it, kind of where it's going to go. And we're going to trim it. And we're going to strip it. Come on. There we go. We're going to strip it, get the copper exposed. And now remember that little label, the casing of the wire? We're going to slip that right on here so that we're going to know what that is when we take the cover off. And we'll be able to label our panel correctly in the end. So what I like to do right here is make sure the breaker's off. There's a screw in here. And what you're going to do is you're going to loosen that up. And between the two metal plates, you're going to slip the wire in. Just like that. Now you're going to crank down on this nice and tight until it's completely snug. Just double check it. Make sure it's nice and snug. And now you got your wire attached to your breaker. Make sure your breaker's off, and this breaker is gonna clip in here and push in. You're gonna put it right here, right like that. And then you're just gonna push it in like that. Now you got your breaker, neaten everything up. And you can turn your circuit on by flipping the breaker. And you're all set. I'm not gonna turn this on right now because our disposal and our dishwasher isn't hooked up yet, so the wires upstairs are just wire nutted off. So that's just a little bit about how to put in a breaker on a panel box. Again, this is your service panel. A lot of times it may look a little bit different, but that's pretty much the basic. So I hope you guys all got a little bit of information there on a service panel. If you have any questions, give us a call. We can help you out.